Hello, my beautiful friends. I'm guessing if you're here, you're in the category of humans that are currently ascending. And that means that you've probably experienced a sense of losing your mind, losing your grip, losing that sense of groundedness into your feeling of reality. And that's what I just want to chat a little bit about today, is because, so many of us with all these energetic shifts currently currently occurring on the planet. We've got things like solar energies and bursts coming in, and just the general collective consciousness is shifting. Gaia, the Earth's energies are shifting, and as humans, we're all caught up in that. Whether it's consciously and deliberately, or whether it's taken us a little bit more by surprise. And I'm speaking from experience when I say, like, I felt like I was well and truly losing my shit. So I've been there. And this happened back in about 2013, and it happens. So what happens is when we experience these dramatic shifts of consciousness, and again, it can happen whether we're doing it deliberately and seeking it out, or whether we're simply kind of swept up, or our soul has agreed to awaken at a certain time on this planet, and our lived experience to that point in time may not have necessarily prepared us, although in a way it has, and I'll get to that in a minute. So today I'm going to share just 3 simple tips to help keep you grounded and to help you to navigate that sense of madness, or that sense of loss and loss of grounded reality. And as our consciousness raises or expands, or whatever you want to call it, we begin to access different frequencies, and these different frequencies give us access to perhaps a different perceptive view, so a different point of view. And one of the ways to indicate this, and this is quite a linear way, is that if we as humans living our human life, we're moving along the x-axis of time, the horizontal x-axis of time. And while we're moving along that axis, we have access to the memories and recollections of our experiences of this lifetime, this linear lifetime. But anything that's occurred in a time or space which is outside of this grounded bodily experience, we don't have any access to, because our perspective is at this point across the x-axis, and everything else is in the past or the future, which we can't see. But when our consciousness starts to raise, it's as though we're then climbing up the x-axis. So we're still having this experience of this body, this physicality along the x-axis, but our perceived awareness, or the experiences and realities that we're capable of perceiving, are opening up. It's an expanded perspective, and they're not necessarily grounded in this experience of reality. And this is where it can have a sense of madness and a sense of disorientation. And so you're not alone. And I also don't want you to buy into it too much, because one of the keys to navigating this process is to allow for the reality of something, of this expansion, of this non-reality, whilst also remaining firmly anchored in where you are here and now. So it's kind of like the fluidity to experience different things whilst not losing your grip on yourself. So back to this XY thing. So our consciousness starts rising up this y-axis, and again, back to the linear example of past and future, the linear time. So you've got this lifetime here, and as you rise up, your perspective starts to rise. So you might be able to tap into or experience gifts, wounds, memories from something that happened at this point in the timeline, which might be hundreds of years ago. Or, and this isn't my particular gift, but it's by this rationale, it's possible you might have memories of this point of the timeline, which hasn't happened yet. So I know this might sound a little bit way out, but I'm trying to provide, I suppose, an analogy to help you understand why, as your frequency raises and you're bombarded with this incoming consciousness, this incoming shifting energy, things may seem very disorienting. Things may seem unreal. The energies that you're tapping into, it may be different. And there's another dimension to this, which I'll talk about as well, is our perception of light and dark. So as we're bombarded and our consciousness shifts to a lighter energetic state, we also suddenly have the capacity to perceive a whole lot of darkness that was previously hidden before. It's not that the darkness wasn't there. It's just that where we were in our status quo didn't really have the capacity to perceive it, or it wasn't different enough from our baseline for us to notice, much less be horrified by. So we are going to start seeing or experiencing the perception of darkness or negativity. And this is another key thing, is to remain as an objective observer, and again, in my experience, I well and truly lost it. But then I didn't, I kind of knew that I was here for it. So, but I didn't understand all of this stuff when I was going through it. And so I was having these terrible energetic interactions. But what I recognize now is that really it was simply part of the awakening process and part of the purging process. Because every time you awaken to a new level of consciousness, there are going to be elements in your field, in your mind, body, spirit field, that don't resonate with that heightened level of consciousness. And you're going to have to process and purge those in order to continue along your ascension, along that progression of consciousness. So there are a lot of nonlinear aspects to these concepts that I'm talking about, but I hope this has kind of given a simple understanding about, I guess, sort of the mechanics of how this kind of stuff works, because at the end of the day, we're all energy. We're all simply having a conscious experience. But what's present in our current embodied experience may not align with and resonate with what's in our raised conscious experience. And to that end, we need to learn and grow and release those other aspects. And when we're facing these elements of ourselves that we've not seen before, it can be very frightening, or we can project it and perceive that it's actually coming from outside of us. So moving on to three tips that I would have found really, really helpful when I was navigating this kind of extreme shift in consciousness. And the first one is that I want to reassure you that you're here for this. You have the capacity to hold this space, to hold your consciousness, to hold your energy. And, if you're watching this, you have an element of, I want to say choice, but you're here consciously in the process, and you're seeking guidance and support in that regard. But know that you're here on this planet because you have the capacity to deal with this. There are experiences that have occurred earlier in your lifetime, in this lifetime, that are going to be resources for you, that are going to help you. So one of the things, as an example, is that I'd experienced some psychedelic things and experiences in my past, and they very much helped me when I started to navigate this realm of expanded consciousness, because I'd already experienced that kind of the sense of shifting sands of reality. And so when it started happening on its own, occurring in a spiritual perspective, not an induced perspective, so to speak, I could ground into myself. I could ground into that state that it's kind of like we have a thread, or we ground into, the sense of self. So if you are experiencing disruption in your life, in your perception, in your reality, just trust that you're here for this. But also remember that usually, like when we're going through these things, a lot of it happens in our head. And what's happening in your head can connect to and draw upon things that aren't necessarily present and influential in your reality beyond being in your head. I don't know if that kind of makes sense. And so it's kind of like, imagine if you're on a boat and it's the sea's getting really wild. What do you do when you're on the boat? You do your best to navigate. I think they have ways of like navigating through the waves. But you as the person on that boat, you ground yourself and you center yourself and you kind of anchor yourself into, maybe it's that center point, so that the boat's rocking around you, but you're kind of in that center point of the boat. I hope that makes sense. And it's letting go of certainty. So these are going to be rocky waters because our old sense of reality no longer serves. You are expanding. What you see as possible is shifting. And this is an exciting thing. This is an exciting time. And, there's nothing wrong. So trust that where you are on your journey, you are strong, you are resilient, and you will come through it. But what we learn in life when it gets a bit rocky and when we can trust this process is that, there will always be a point of coming through it, but also the wild ocean is part of the ride. It's like if you went on a roller coaster that just went straight across, it'd be boring. So if you look at life like that, and well, our human vessel, the human ego, is terrified or trying to get away, doesn't want to deal with it. If you can tune in into the trust and wisdom of your soul, then you'll be much better able to navigate and just hold your center. Now, the second point is that when things get particularly unstable and you start to really kind of question things, remain open to these things, to these experiences. I was experiencing multiple timelines simultaneously. I didn't have a context for that, but it was very disruptive. So allow your mind to, and your perception, to have the experiences of these things as a detached observer. Remember that you are anchored for the moment, and this is to sort of maintain our sanity, is to anchor into what you know for certain. Which can sometimes be very little, but anchor into the experience of the here and now. Anchor into the immediateness of your body, your home. Maybe it's your work, maybe it's something that you're studying, maybe your experiences create that sense of uncertainty, but uncertainty isn't dangerous. We are taught as humans that uncertainty is the most terrifying thing. In fact, I honestly believe that some humans fear uncertainty more than they're afraid of death. But it's in allowing ourselves to observe this contrasting sense of reality, seeing things that we might find horrifying occurring in the world, and looking and understanding that there is a higher dynamic at play. There's a higher sense of consciousness, a higher sense of energy. And so in anchoring what you know for sure, and what you can remain grounded into, threads. I've recently identified a few threads that will, even if your capacity is hanging by a thread, keep that on. Maybe it is a physical practice like yoga. So maybe you really anchor into that. This is the routine, this is the certainty, this is the groundedness. Maybe you're a runner or something like that. Maybe maybe there's a close friend or a relative or something that you can really anchor into. You don't need to necessarily go out there and sing from the rooftops everything that's going on, this awakening that you're having. But it can be really helpful to identify with a person, or a relationship that can help you to ground into that which is stable, while you're learning to navigate the uncertainty, while you're learning to navigate alternate timelines, alternate possibilities. And again, shift in consciousness, opening up to really a lot of the truths that have existed but have been suppressed. And some of those are good, some of those aren't so good. And so finally, and I might have mentioned this before, one of the most important things, don't believe all the thoughts. And this is a beautiful balance between allowing something to be possible without taking it on as truth. And you can allow that. And you know, we have this kind of reflexive tendency to react to things. But, and again, to sit as a objective observer of the thoughts, the experiences, the awareness. You know, you are a sovereign being. You are not your thoughts. You are a soul having this experience. And that soul has lived in, you know, it's eternal. It's lived many lifetimes. It's lived in many different realities. We have, you know, if you come back to the idea that everything we experience is a projection of thought, then, you know, we really can easily get tossed around and reactive to fear-based thinking or fear-based projections, or the recollection of really unpleasant experiences that kind of seem to overlap with our present reality. But again, going back to point 2, just anchor into what you know, who you are, and the stability that you can find. You know, meditation is a really, what I say, meditation saved my life back when I was going through the thick of it. Finding a practice where you can find the space to be present and allow it's actually a really good learning space as well, because that was kind of where I would sit and I would have these, you know, experiences in consciousness, but my body was anchored here, and I could kind of reconcile and begin to understand what the experiences were occurring, what experiences were occurring for me. So, you know, in this shift, our sense of certainty and reality is challenged. But there is still a center point. There is still, you know, and I really just want to give you, I suppose, a thread or a lifeline, or just some guidance to help you to navigate these waters with a bit more confidence and a bit more reassurance that you're okay, you know. And what we really want to do, we want to find the love within. We want to find the space of love that's within and make that the thread that we hold on to, you know, and know that any of the darkness, any of the pain, any of the suffering, it will resolve. It's occurring to be released. It's rising up so that we can release it, and that your essence, your true nature is love. And that is what we are moving further towards. It's just that we have to go through some rough stuff first. So, you know, letting your energy ground, not necessarily being reactive to things. You know, we might perceive other people being a certain way, but we don't need to react to that. You know, I perceived a lot of darkness and negativity, and, you know, I dealt with it in the way I dealt with it. And I feel fortunate that while I did lose it a little bit, I still maintained I was still functional, and I was still able to hold myself together whilst navigating through that portal, because it was a portal. And if you're going through it, it is a portal to shed and rise. You know, you really are an amazing, beautiful being of light. You're coming through it, and, you know, like you are part of the collective consciousness of this planet, shifting into the new dimension, shifting into the life and the reality that we're here to manifest on earth. So yeah, so just a footnote as well, look for resources that will support you. Now, I personally, I have a very practical and grounded approach to navigating this stuff. I have had some very out there experiences, but I also have a very grounded and practical approach to navigating these things. But whatever your resources, let it be what's true for you, what's real for you. Let it be love-based, not based on falsehoods or delusion. It's easy to get caught up in delusion when we're experiencing fragmented or fluid reality, sense of realities. And if you can find someone who you trust to speak with, you'll find a new tribe. You'll find a tribe who can share space with you, and look for practices and people who can help you through that. So, beautiful souls. I hope this has made sense. I really just wanted to share a little bit of my experience, but consciousness is a big thing, and so trying to compact our experiences and the wisdom that's gained into a 15 or 20-minute video, which I hope has a meaningful impact for you. It can seem a bit strange. It can be a bit challenging. So if this has been supportive and you'd like to hear more of this sort of stuff, let me know. I'd love it if you comment, or if you have any further questions or would like to get in touch, please do reach out, because we're all experiencing this shift because we're all part of our collective, and so you're not alone. But it's not always going to be easy, but the process we're going through is one of raising light. And I look back to 10 plus years ago when I was really going through a lot of this stuff, and at the time I had just discovered, or just kind of opened up and connected with the most divine, blissful experience of light, universe, God, whatever you want to call it. And that was kind of what anchored me, and what enabled me to move through it and learn from it. But there was also a lot of challenge, and that was a challenge that I brought from this life, from previous lives I was experiencing, previous lives I was embodying. I was being re-traumatized from past experiences and things like that. So it's all where I love the term the mind body spirit complex, because that really encapsulates what we are as people. And the body isn't separate from the soul. The body is part of the embodiment of spirit, of energy, and our consciousness. And it's a great tool to reflect and heal. Anyway, thank you for watching. I do hope that this has served. And I love talking about this issue. So if you have any questions, please reach out. Much love, and may you be well.